Heartbeat Alaska on Radio is brought to you by Alaska Family Housing Services, featuring a new prenatal home. Alaska Family Housing Services provides the comforts of home while you're in the city for education or health care. For more information, call 1-888-453-4833.
It's Heartbeat Alaska. It's Heartbeat Alaska. You can hear it from Sitka to Barrow. Gather around for Jeannie's show. It's the Alutiiq, the Indian and the Eskimo. It's the Alutiiq, the Indian and the Eskimo.
Hello and welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. Native News and Information, I'm Jeannie Green. Hello to our good friends everywhere. So nice to have you with us. Our youth are so very important, no matter what culture they're from, for they are the future. And today we visit with the youth and see the traditions that are being handed down from our Native elders. It's one of our most important shows. It's a 9-letter word that encompasses everything. And from the time we're born, this word is like a link from our past to who we are today, to who we're going to be tomorrow. It's defined by Webster's as the handing down of information, beliefs, and customs by word of mouth or by example from one generation to another without written instruction. For the Native people of Alaska, it's a way of life, a way of assuring that our culture will live on forever. It's tradition and the unique way of life that separates Alaska's people from the rest of the world. Whether it be the lessons of survival or the legends and stories told through song and dance, the ways of our ancestors still live on in the ways of our people today. It's the uncompromised dedication of our elders to teach these ways and the unquenchable desire of our youth to learn their history that makes the passing down of tradition possible. In Savoonga, Alaska, the youth display an undeniable pride on the dance floor as they paint the pictures of stories from yesteryear. Located on the north coast of St. Lawrence Island, the Siberian Yupiks of Savoonga are closely tied to the earth. They rely heavily upon the Bering Sea to provide most of their food.
This is dried ogurk meat, muklut, bearded seal.
Good?
Yeah. Delicacy.
Not only do they harvest seal, walrus, whale, and fish, but the nearby cliffs provide a nesting ground for the murre and the eggs that these sea-dwelling birds lay. In the neighboring village of Gambell, the only other village on the island, We find some locals stretching a walrus skin that will eventually be used to cover an umiak frame or skin boat.
You're gonna tie it all from here to there, all around. No, actually, this part's gonna be spliced and cut in half, just like this one's almost done. It's drying off right now.
By stretching the walrus skin, the fur lining can be easily separated from the actual skin.
Parts are coming out and some part is hard.
Eventually, the skin will look like this one when it dries. For Sam Okhtokiyuk, the day will come when he will have to stretch a walrus skin and cover his own umiak. It's through watching, listening, and learning this tradition that Sam will be prepared for that day. It's also through the passing down of tradition that Sam has learned how to carve ivory. Throughout the coastal communities of Alaska can be found some of the greatest ivory carvers in the world. Edwin Noongwook of Savoonga is one of those carvers that has built an outstanding reputation for himself through his artwork.
I like the idea of using my culture in the artwork because it helps recognize who I am and where I come from. I've started when I was younger at school. I took some classes with Alexander Akia. And when I traveled over to Gambell and I'd run into Ron, carving inspired me to carve something too. And I remember back when he asked me to carve a piece and I didn't know how to carve it, and he'd get me started on that, and I'd ended up finishing it. And I came back and carved 5 more the same way and kind of picked up from there. And I tried doing different things when I was first working on some human figures, and I thought I wouldn't do any faces, you know, and then I just grind it down anyways and carve it up a little bit, and then face would start to show, and as you're going, it would be finished. I'm doing an artwork about, I'm thinking of titling it Respect from a Hunter, and it's going to be a lifting of an elderly face, and it's going to be something about the lifting of a soul, something more in a respecting way. Our elders tell us about respect for the other animals that we hunt, and so I thought I'd do some artwork about that. I carved the bear at the tip of the tusk right here, and kind of twists up into a walrus, and then a whale, kind of twisted tail right there. And this is going to be a bearded seal. It kind of goes around the waist of the man that I'm going to be carving, and it's going to be stretched out as to where it's lifting an elderly face, and I'll carve up a young man's face right there and kind of make this more of an elderly face where it has a ruff there. And so it's kind of going to show a little, it's going to represent a story of lifting of the soul of an elderly man, and which it's going to show the respect for the animals.
Sam is well on his way to joining the ranks of Master Carver, thanks to those who taught Sam what he knows about carving and the dedication of the young people of rural Alaska. Like Sam, Okhtokiyuk, this tradition will be carried on into the future. During the summer months, the native people of Alaska spend much of their time at what is fondly known as fish camp. On the Okhtokiyuk River, Hudson Sam and his family are keeping with tradition, fishing for their winter supply of salmon. From the setting of the net to the jarring of the fish, It's a summer-long lesson for the youth of Huslia, a lesson that has been passed on for generations. On this set, Hudson and his crew caught 98 chum salmon that will be used to feed his family and his dogs throughout the winter. And although it looks like a lot of hard work, the real hard work is yet to come.
Fine, dog.
As Hudson cuts the fish, two young ladies watch with curious eyes, waiting for their turn to try their hand at this age-old tradition.
Okay, wait, what the hell do? Okay, wait, move your hands over. Okay, what do we do with the head? Haley and Courtney too. Wow, look how bloody it is. I can't cut the bone. This is
As the saying goes, practice makes perfect. From the cutting table, these fish make their way to Savoonga Sam, where she hangs them to dry. The preparation and storage of these fish is another valuable skill for these youth to know.
Then you just make your mark. Yeah. And then you go again. And then you just cut it right there, and you cut it in half. Okay.
Through hands-on experience, these kids are not only learning the ways of their people, but are experiencing it as well.
Okay, these are too big. Look.
It's a dedication of the elders and adults of our communities that makes the passing down of tradition possible, but just as important, it takes the desire of our youth to learn these ways. In Selawik, Alaska, there's no lack of interest among these kids as they watch Norma Ballot carve mastodon ivory.
If you have any scratches on it, this is when it'll show up.
Selawik and the surrounding area is believed to be the area where thousands of mastodon crossed the tundra tens of thousands of years ago. Today, discoveries of mastodon tusks, many still intact, are being found. For the future carvers of Selawik, it's a unique medium that holds a fantastic history, and fortunately for these youth, it can be found right in their own backyard. For Norma, passing this tradition on is something she loves to do. In fact, Norma teaches a carving class at the local school.
So you'd be amazed at how much you could actually make from just a simple piece like this, for instance. That one could probably go for $600 once I'm done with it. So you just got to be interested in it, and through trial and error, you'll eventually become professional. Over the years from working with Ivory, one thing I found out is that I'll leave some parts of it raw. Like for instance, this is going to be a bracelet.
On Okhtokiyuk Island, you won't find very many ivory carvers, but you will find a community that wears its pride well. On the southeast coast of the island, on the shores of the Sitgalitic Straits, sits the community of Old Harbor, home to the Alutiiq people of Okhtokiyuk Island. Over the last few years, the village has seen a growing interest within the youth, an interest to know more about their history, about their culture, and about their dance.
We started out with a group of 5 kids, and I tried to get kids to join, but they were kind of shy because they were like, oh, I don't want to wear that, or I don't want to dance because people might laugh at us. Well, the group that I started out with, I told them we're not doing it for people, we're doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for our parents, and we're doing it for our culture. Because that's, you know, this is our pride, and this is the way we show people how proud we are of our culture here in the village. When they started teaching them the dancing, they had to learn the words first and what they meant, and learn what the meanings of the hand movements and everything meant.
We'll sing it in Aleut, English, and then Aleut.
The next song we're going to do is the Bashful Eyes, and this Bashful Eyes means it's an old traditional story where this chief from a village. You know, back then they said, okay, you're my daughter, you're going to marry this certain person from another village. Well, she was in love with another man. So bashful eyes is she's hiding her eyes on the beach when the other dad is bringing her new husband to be, because they were chosen for you. You didn't have any choice. And she's hiding her eyes, and that's what bashful eyes is. We're very proud of who we are, and I'd love to show you the regalia. The top part that you see is the headpiece for a traditional Native woman. And these symbols, the more beads you had, the more wealthy you were. And the traditional way, the Alutiiq way, is your eyes are covered. Women were never allowed to look up. Your eyes had to be covered. You always had to look down. And like I said, let's say this headpiece, that would be a chief's wife because of all the design. They'd trade beads. They'd get the birds. Everything would be handmade. Everything would be traditional, made out of seal, sinew, ivory, whale, and the bird's beaks. But this is a traditional Alutiiq headpiece. And the regalia that she's wearing right now is a traditional woman's regalia, and the same meaning with the headpiece. The more beads, the more ivory, the more decorations you had, the wealthier you were. Made out of rabbit, fox, weasel. And the drums we have were made out of seal hide and the bark of the trees. And the strings would be made out of sinew. So everything was all natural. Nothing was wasted. The kids are real interested in it, and they're here because, like I said, for their pride, for their parents, and to honor our culture.
Let's see, we've taken a look at Native artwork, Native tradition, Native dancing. What's missing? Oh, yeah. For these young ladies from Huslia, Alaska, it's about the Native tradition of fun.
This is Mission Control. We have liftoff.
These girls are running Tim Pavlik's dogs around 6 Mile track. It's a part of their heritage that they will someday pass down.
Right now, Nadia and the kids are going to get the food ready to feed the dogs. This is a blend of dog food, oils, and bone meal. They're going to mix it until the food's really mixed up nice. The kids are helping me out with the dogs like they usually do. They've been looking forward to running them all summer long. They help me feed the dogs all summer, clean the yard, water them. They enjoyed it a lot. Sometimes I had a four-wheeler to hook up my dogs, and I had a four-wheeler behind us, and both are packed.
And we can't forget the age-old tradition of hooky bobbin. It almost looks like a kind of a sport. Oh yeah, speaking of sports, in Shishmaref, Alaska, the girls' team is practicing for the upcoming Native Youth Olympics.
Ready? Put your feet together. Okay. Go.
Irene Ahgupuk competes in a variety of events that range from the scissors broad jump to the Alaskan high kick, while Nicole Turner specializes in the one-arm reach. A little further south, youth from St. Mary's and the surrounding villages are competing in the Native Youth Olympics held this year in St. Mary's. Unfortunately, our stay in St. Mary's was brief, and we had only a chance to videotape 3 events: the Alaska high kick, the wrist carry, and the 1-foot high kick. Some competitors couldn't even reach the ball with their hands, but with their feet, well, their feet were another story. The competition was fierce. As the ball was raised, so were the standards. But like most of the youth of rural Alaska, these athletes rose to the occasion. In the end, every one of these athletes was a winner. For when they display their talents and love for what they're doing, they carry on a tradition that has survived for centuries. What a great show. It's so important that our youth keep the Native traditions alive. And I want to thank you all of our young people, all of our Native young people that are working hard to keep the traditions alive, because after all, it's a choice. And thank you, elders, for taking the time and making it your life's work to show the youth these traditions that are being handed down and handed down. For all of us here on Heartbeat Alaska, join us again next week, won't you? I'm Jeannie Green. From all of us here, God bless you. We'll see you again next week.
It's Heartbeat Alaska.
Heartbeat Alaska on Radio is brought to you by Alaska Family Housing Services, featuring a new prenatal home. Alaska Family Housing Services provides the comforts of home while you're in the city for education or health care. For more information, call 1-888-453-4833.